Hi students, today we are going to study from grade 10 unit, chemical basis of, here you can find out that chemical basis of life, right? This is grade unit 1 science subject, that is biology subject. So chemical basis of life. So when you discuss chemical basis of life, what is chemical? In your day-to-day life, in our day-to-day life, we have used several chemicals, such as say water also kind of chemicals, food kind of chemicals, right? When you take some food from plants, so plant also constructed by chemicals, right? But our day-to-day life, we says nowadays the agricultural, right? They are using chemicals. But sometimes we may think the chemicals mean like a fertilizers. No, each and every substance in our environment that is indicating chemicals, right? Say example, my muscles, which is contain so many elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Water contain hydrogen, oxygen. Say bone, it's contain calcium, phosphate, right? So there are so many elements which they are forming as a compound, or is it available in elements form, right? It's help to construct our body, right? Today I eat my breakfast bread. So the bread which contain carbohydrate, we can give different kind of heading. That can, the piece of bread, it is contain carbohydrate. Someone can say it's contain glucose. They can say when you eat carbohydrate, after that the end product of carbohydrate is glucose. So they can say the bread contain glucose indirectly. Anyone can say piece of bread contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Those kind of molecules are there. So the same substance, say such as piece of bread, you can keep under the different heading, but all are chemicals. Say if you keep under the carbohydrate, you can give us examples, that is piece of bread, slice of bread. So if you study the monosaccharide or disaccharide, so that time also the piece of bread can be used. I already said the end product of carbohydrate is glucose. If you like this substance which contain carbon, that time also the slice of bread can be keep under that heading. Therefore, in this chapter, what is grade unit, that is chemical basis of life, our life, right, and the chemicals, what are the relationship with them, right? According to that, you can see now chemical basis of life. The bodies of all organisms are composed varieties of chemical compounds. The bodies of all organisms mean, you know, the organisms can be classified, animal and plants, and microorganism, right? Microorganisms, right? Here the bodies of all organisms are composed, that means composed of variety of chemicals. I already said the chemical which is compounds. What is compounds? Chemical compounds is what? Compound, there are two or more than elements be there. So H2O as a compound, NaCl as a compound, C6H12O6 as a compound, C6H12O6. Therefore, the bodies of all organisms are composed of variety of chemical compounds. These compounds are formed by the bonding of naturally existing elements in different ways. What is bonding? Yes, because say example, hydrogen atom and oxygen atoms and another hydrogen atoms. So they can combine, produce as a H2O molecules, say if these kind of molecules produce as a H2O, they should be produced as a bond, chemical bond. This is the bond. Otherwise, we can't get the stable molecules. So now, when the elements which they make the compound, that time they should be make the bond, because each and every bond contain chemical energy. Each and every bond contain chemical energy. Therefore, this is chemical energy, right? So these chemical compounds are formed by the bonding, chemical bonding, covalent bond, ionic bond. We will study later the bonding of naturally existing elements, because the elements which is naturally existing, right? In our environment, there are so many elements you can find out. Say silicon, the minerals part of the soil is contains silicon. The coal, when you burn the wood, after that it will give a black color substance which is carbon. When we burn the carbon in our atmosphere, what will happen? The carbon combine with oxygen and changes carbon dioxide as a gas. Combustion. So you can understand now what is the elements which are existing in our life, but it can be combine them and make the compound. So now students, you can understand chemical basis of life. The bodies of all organisms are composed variety of chemicals compounds. I already said what is my body also, the muscles also contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Bone also contain calcium phosphate. Then hemoglobin. You know the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin also. Hemoglobin mean the blood our blood contain red blood cells. Into that red blood cells, right? The red blood cells mean you can observe through the light microscope. So when you see the blood structure, the blood film, you can find out the kind of cells. That is RBC, red blood capsules. Into that, we can find out the small pigment, red color pigment, which is called hemoglobin. If we need to produce, our body need to produce hemoglobin, we should take sufficient iron. So iron is available in our surrounding. Therefore, the chemical compounds, these chemical compounds are formed by the bonding of naturally existing elements in different ways. Say another examples also I would like to say you, another examples, right? What is carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide available in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide available in our atmosphere. Water is available, existing in our environments, that's like a soil water. The plant which can absorb water, and reach to the leaves, green leaves, and the carbon dioxide, right, absorbed by the plant leaves. So they into that plant leaves, green plant leaves, what will happen? In front of sunlight, they can produce a new substance. From what are the raw materials? Water and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide and water, they are combined with them and make the new compound, that is glucose. So glucose also having so many energy bond, chemical bond. The chemical bond contain chemical energy. So carbon dioxide and water, they make the new compound and storing the energy. How does they get energy? Yes, in front of sunlight. Sunlight, the sun energy, solar energy have stored it into the glucose molecules. So students, you can understand what is carbon, oxygen, right? And oxygen, hydrogen, those are the elements. They make the new compound by using the chemical bond. So that is explained in our notes. The bodies of all organisms are composed in variety of chemical compounds. Our organs, so many things. These chemicals compounds are formed by the bonding of naturally existing elements. Yes, it don't want come from the sky. Naturally existing elements are there, right? Now see, there are only about 25 elements in the living body out of the 92 elements present in nature. Actually, nature, our environment, it's contain 92 elements present. There are 92 elements present, but they are finding about 25 elements in the living body, right? Say examples you can find out, right? There are naturally existing elements about 92 elements. Elements means such as sodium, potassium, calcium, those are elements. But naturally sodium element is not available naturally, because this is very reactable element. But sodium chloride is there. But elements such as say iron, right, gold, those are elements. Gold also, pure gold, that means atomic form or the element, pure element form is available. But other than the elements which can make the compound and it's existing in our environment. But here they said there are naturally existing elements 92, but in our body that they have find out about 25 elements important. If need to construct or build our body, it's depend on about 25 elements which are necessary for to constructing that. They are present at different location in the body in different forms. The most common 4 elements in the different forms, right? This is the one, right? So they said what? What did they say? Yeah. See, they are present at different location. They are present in different location in the body in different forms. That most common 4 elements, right? So initially we should understand what is this. That is, right? Say, we will try to understand what about this sentence, right? This sentence. Say example, if you consider the RBC, that means blood cells, red blood capsules, right? It's contain hemoglobin. That hemoglobin, right, having iron. So here I can mention the iron is there where in the red blood capsules. If you consider the bone, what is? It's made by calcium and phosphorus also there, and oxygens, hydrogens, those are there, right? So I already mentioned and rounded in red color here now. They are present at different location where bone, blood, sometimes brain also needs some important elements, right? Sodium, potassium, magnesium are there, and muscles, nitrogen, especially nitrogen. Thyroid gland in our neck, you know the thyroid gland, that's gland depend on the where the iodine elements. So different organs need different kind of elements. Therefore, they said here the location of the elements, they said they are present at different location in the different part of our body, right? Now you can understand that sentence also. After that, they explain what? The most common four elements in living body are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. These are the most common one. Why most common one? Say example, we depend on plant, indirectly or directly we depend on plant. So when you eat plant food, actually plant, how does they make food? That is glucose. See, photosynthesis, no? Through the photosynthesis, C6H12O6. So when you consider the glucose, you can find out, when you consider the glucose, you can find out the important elements. What is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen? Say example, if you eat meat, right, flesh meat or fish, which contain protein, so the protein also having nitrogen, right? Students, normally you can understand, right? In your, just think about your breakfast or lunch or dinner, right? Normally in Asian countries, we eat lot of carbohydrate, rice, pittu. So carbohydrate contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So what are the main elements day-to-day life we are taking? Mainly we depend on that kind of elements. What are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen? Not only that, protein also in our day-to-day life we are taking, say such as milk, right? Milk, or sometime you know that milk, meat, egg, right? Sometimes you know the vegetable protein, say soya meats, beans, those are under categories of protein. So protein contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and especially nitrogen. We already discussed about it, right? Here they say there are 25 elements they have find out in our body, but mainly there are 4 elements. What are they? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. Hydrogen, nitrogen, right? Okay, now those are the 4 elements. Other than about sulfur, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron and chlorine are essential for the survival of organisms. Actually students, they have mentioned here certain elements, but they miss to indicate the zinc also. Actually we know the 4 elements are important, other 21 elements are essential for that, right? Therefore here in our notes says what? There are sulfur, phosphorus, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron and chlorine. They miss some elements, but you don't worry about it, because that also the small amount need our body, right? Okay. Next one. Here you can find out that oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, others, right? Say 65%, 18%, 10% and 3% and 4%. Actually I don't think too much, because the value is not necessary, but you should understand according to the mass wise, right? According to the mass wise, which is more, 65% oxygen. You know when you consider the body, human body, right? They said about 65% oxygen. That is the higher amount of that. After that, 18% carbon. Then 10% hydrogen. Now think about this. Nitrogen is very less amount, small amount, right? You can think in your day-to-day life, we have taken the amount of protein is less. Amount of protein is less, right? When we eat day-to-day life, you think about is what about your amount of proteins? That is, when you compare with others, that is less. But in our body also, when you compare with carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, the nitrogen is smallest one. So sometimes your question, right, paper can ask, write the ascending order or descending order of these values. They don't need to ask the actual values. You have to sometimes MCQ possible. Which of the given answer is correct? According to the mass wise, they have find out the elements which are 1, 2, 3, 4 answers they can give it. You have to find out the ascending order or descending order. What is the most mass of that oxygen? Then the second one, you know that carbon and hydrogen and nitrogen, right? Chemical compounds that build up living matter can be divided into two categories as organic compound and inorganic compound. Yes, this is very important. In advanced level also, there are vast area they have covered in chemistry. What is organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry, right? You know that in our day-to-day life, we are using so many chemicals that we can classify. In our day-to-day life, we are using so many chemicals. According to that chemicals, easily we can divide it organic chemical and inorganic chemical. Naturally existing so many, the part of the leaves, part of the human body, say protein, right, carbohydrate, lipids, those are organic matters. That is the reason when we are using the part of the leaves or waste materials to fertilizers, they are naming what is organic fertilizers. Organic farming nowadays is going to famous, right? Organic means that the substance mainly contain carbon, but they are introducing that some kind of chemicals are exception for this definition, because what is organic substances, that they can say organic substances which have contained more carbon. But here some exceptions are there, such as carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide also contain carbon, but we don't keep under the organic compound. We keep in inorganic compound. Like that carbon not chloride, carbon tetrachloride, CCl4, right? That also under this one. Carbon monoxide, CO, that also contain carbon, but we don't keep under the organic substance, organic compound. We are keeping the inorganic compound, right? But naturally they can say chemical compound that build up living matter can be divided into two categories, organic compounds and inorganic compounds. Compounds which contain carbon are known as organic compounds, and compounds which don't contain carbon are known as inorganic compound. And the exceptional also they have mentioned carbon dioxide, CO2 also having contain carbon, but this is under the inorganic substance. The carbon monoxide, CO, this is coming from the burning of fuels. Carbon monoxide, that also contain carbon, but this is under the inorganic substance. But carbonate, calcium carbonate, sodium carbonate or bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate, caustic powder, you know the baking powder, bicarbonate, right? Sodium bicarbonate, and are some of the inorganic compounds which contain carbons. Here they don't forget this, which contain carbon, but that is inorganic, under keeping inorganic substances, right? Students, you can understand what I am telling you. The chemicals normally in existing the chemicals in our environment, we can classify it under two groups. What are they? Organic substance and inorganic compound. Organic compound and inorganic compound, right? We will move to the next slide. Those organic compounds. What is organic compound? Which is contain carbon, right? Which is contain carbon. Those organic compounds that build up the living body or living matter are known biomolecules, because You know the biomolecules. The biomolecules which are helped to construct the living things. Say, such as consider my body. That's the biological body. That means the live living things. So it's contracting by organic substance, organic compound. That organic compound can be say biomolecules. What is biomolecules? Biomolecules, actually this is organic matter. Biomolecules, actually that is organic matter. Biomolecules, that is organic matter. And the biomolecules can be classified mainly carbohydrate, protein, lipids, right? And sometime we will study later nucleic acids and some kind of vitamin also keep it there. But mainly carbohydrate, protein, lipids and nucleic acids, right? Those are the biomolecules. Say, here we can say the biomolecules. These are carbohydrate, proteins and lipids, nucleic acids are biomolecules. These substances can be classified under the organic substance, right? So naturally we can say that these are the biomolecules. These are organic substance, but it can be constructed the organism, right? The next one, yeah, here very interesting. Actually in your textbooks diagram is there, but you don't need to remember the values, but you should know just all fluids. Here first one, oxygen, tissues, bones, proteins. Here this is not necessary to remember this. Why? All kind of fluids mean contain water. If it is contain water, water is what? H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. Therefore, all kind of fluids contain oxygen. Say just as bone, consider the bone, right? A small amount of water is there. Muscles, water is there. The muscles contain proteins. So here definitely the oxygen is there, right? So oxygens may be there and carbon everywhere in the body. If you burn it anywhere, any part of your body, it will come to black color, right? Just take the piece of this one, it will come to black color, right? Therefore, the carbon, whole body is contain carbon compound. Hydrogen also H2O. So they mention all fluids and tissues and bones and proteins. I already mentioned that. What is carbohydrates? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Lipid, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Protein, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. Nucleic acid, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and phosphorus. So you can find out the similarity, intersect. When you study the set, you know the two circles, the intersect, like that carbon, hydrogen, oxygens are there. Especially protein has nitrogen, the nucleic acid, nitrogen with phosphorus. Anyway, urine also contain urine bonds, phosphorus, bones also phosphorus. Potassium enzymes, right? Sulfur, protein, some kind of proteins contain sulfur. Sodium, all fluids, because you know when our tear also salty taste, right? And most of the salt excreted through the urine. So salt as all fluids contain. Magnesium, brain, lungs, kidneys, liver, heart, most of the important organs having magnesium. But actually in our laboratory also contain magnesium tape, right? Magnesium tape is there, metallic tape, but that is different from the magnesium ions, because the metal strips like a tape, magnesium tape or magnesium metal strips, it's contain magnesium atom, but our food contain magnesium compound, just as an ionic form of magnesium, Mg2 plus. But the magnesium strips, it's contain Mg, atomic form, right? Our body need ionic form. So when we are taking iron also, it's containing ionic form, say ferrous sulfate, FeSO4. So that is compound. But available iron, Fe is there. But we can't eat normal iron rod because that is element form, ionic atomic form. But the compound, say such as green leaves also having ionic form of iron. Right? Here chlorine, skin cells, Fe, I already mentioned that Fe, hemoglobin in our body. And iodine, hormones, you know our thyroid gland, right? Our thyroid gland here like a butterfly like sticks here on the trachea path, right? The thyroid gland also secreting thyroxine hormone. Thyroid gland, it's very important gland, it's secreting thyroxine hormone. Most of the metabolism activities, right, controlled by this. This also helps to control some activities, right? Thyroxine hormone. If we don't have sufficient iodine, that gland also going to affect it. It will become big size, we may say goiter. So here you can remember chemical basis of life, that is our unit in grade 10. So we are talking about chemicals, iodine, sodium, potassium, like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, those are available in various substances which are available in our body, right? Okay. Next one, yes, very important substance, this is carbohydrate, right? You know that carbohydrate is available in our foods such as pittu, idiyappam, rice, right? Sometimes you know some kind of fruits also having carbohydrate, grains, carbohydrate. Actually the carbohydrate substances unable to dissolve in water. Actually that carbohydrate, the starch formation, starch, especially I am telling starch because in our day-to-day life we are eating starch kind of food, rice, pittu, idiyappam. So those kind of substances unable to dissolve in water, that means insoluble complex compound. Insoluble complex compound, that is kind of carbohydrate. But when we study the carbohydrate, we have find out some kind of classification, some kind of varieties. So we have find out monosaccharide, disaccharide, polysaccharide. Mono means one, carbon monoxide, CO, C with one oxygen. Like that, mono means one, monoxide. Like that, monosaccharide, saccharide, related with carbohydrate term, saccharide. So carbohydrate can be classified monosaccharide. If two monosaccharide combined and give a certain substance called disaccharide. Monosaccharide and disaccharide. More than two or more thing, that monosaccharide can be make the polysaccharide. So monosaccharide, disaccharide and polysaccharide. When we classify these kind of substances, we have find out some kind of substances able to dissolve in water. Able to dissolve in water. Say glucose. Actually the glucose as a monosaccharide, it can be dissolved in water. Glucose able to dissolve in water. But many glucose molecules, they can combine between them and make the polysaccharide such as starch. But starch unable to dissolve in water. If we eat starch, it's unable to absorb by our body. Why? The starch as a polysaccharide, unable to dissolve in water. Therefore, when we eat starch, say such as rice, pittu, idiyappam, so what will happen? When we eat the food, unable to absorb directly by our guts or digestion system. But if I eat glucose, it will absorb quickly. I can remember when I participate the sports meet, that time they have given glucose powder. Why? When I eat it, it will absorb in my mouth cavity. There are so many blood capillaries are there. Tiny capillaries are there. So directly they can absorb and can use quickly in my body. Therefore, monosaccharide, disaccharide and polysaccharide, you must know that. And glucose, you can remember when you study the photosynthesis. When you study photosynthesis, you can remember what is carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide gas from the atmosphere and the soil water from the soil and send it to the leaves. In front of that sunlight, they can produce glucose. The glucose contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. If glucose contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, many glucose combine polysaccharide. So polysaccharide also carbon, hydrogen, right, oxygen. If glucose contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, that means C6H12O6. If glucose contain, glucose, you know the chemical symbol of glucose C6H12O6. So two glucose molecules combine them and make the disaccharide. That time also what are the elements available? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So monosaccharide, disaccharide, polysaccharide. Those kind of saccharides contain three kind of elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Right, students? Now see the notes. This is the most abundant organic compound in earth. Yes, this is the most abundant. Why? You know, the plants which can produce glucose is converted to so many starch formation, right? They are produced during the photosynthesis of green plants such as potato, sweet potato, grain, sugar, flour are some of these examples for foods which contain carbohydrates. You may study in grade 5 this one, right? What are the food, right, contain carbohydrate? Then the main elements compositions are carbohydrate. I already mentioned what is CO2, that is carbon dioxide, plus water, H2O. So now you can find out what is. Now you can find out. There are that is one elements, two elements and three elements. Three kind of elements. They combine between them and produce carbon, C6H12O6. This is the basic unit of polysaccharide, right? Glucose. So glucose contain what? Yes, you can understand now. Yes, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So main elemental compositions of carbohydrates, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen combine 2:1. Here example, when I say the compounds, just what do you call, glucose. Here you find out the percentage between them. Say now take it this one. How much? Yes, that is 12. Now take the other one. What is oxygen? Oxygen is how much? Yes, that is 6. So what is the ratio between them? 2:1. 6 into 12, that is 2:1. So one small elements also help to find out the points. What is hydrogen and oxygen combine 2:1 ratio in carbohydrate. Okay. Students, now you can see the carbohydrate can be classified into three groups as below according to the way they are formed: carbohydrate, monosaccharides disaccharides and polysaccharides, right? Okay. Now glucose, fructose, galactose, we already studied glucose, fructose, galactose, and maltose, sucrose, lactose, right? And starch, cellulose, glycogen. These are the three kinds. Okay students, now you can understand what is going on, right? We are just revision grade 10 unit, first one, chemical basis of life, and you also study well. Wish you all the best. We will meet next class. Thank you very much.